Federation of Jewish Services received a letter from a Mr. Martin Ighodaro. It contained a number of serious allegations against a number of his co-workers, including Janette. Now, Janette never received a copy of this letter, and this fact was to play a major part in the internal investigation. This matter will also serve as a clear example of the difficulties I had of getting to the truth when dealing with the Federation of Jewish Services.
She told the tribunal that she gave me the letter, but that wasn't true. I never saw the letter. They said they gave it to me and I knew everything that was in it, but I didn't know anything about it.
Janette was completely unaware that she was just one of at least 5 members of staff Mr. Ighodaro had brought allegations against, and this fact was never disputed throughout all correspondence with the Federation of Jewish Services until shortly before the tribunal hearing, and I'll tell you why. Rumours started to filter down to me from Federation employees that the accused members of staff had been treated in different ways. In fact, we were to discover that some of the allegations were not investigated at all, despite the Federation testifying otherwise. The Federation at the time refused to disclose relevant documents on these matters, so in order to secure these documents, I applied to the tribunal for an amendment of the claim to include unequal treatment. This was made on the legitimate grounds that Janette was unaware of the multiple allegations at the time of the initial claim. The Federation were now to flatly deny that they withheld this information and set about trying to persuade the tribunal that they had given Janette a copy of that letter, and they were to be very adamant on this matter. As your client should be aware, our client provided a copy of Mr. Ighodaro's grievance letter to the claimant at the commencement of the disciplinary hearing. Karen Johnson, the clinical manager at the time for the Federation, was also to add her authority to this claim. She was to categorically testify under oath that Janette had been handed a copy of that letter at the disciplinary meeting that she herself had conducted. Ms. Ingber handed the following to the claimant, Mr. Ighodaro's grievance letter.
They knew very well that they never gave me the letter and I never saw it. I thought it was just me that Martin had accused and I was all on my own.
Janette's denial against all this impressive testimony looked very tame indeed. However, in their eagerness to persuade the tribunal that their version of events was the correct one, they hadn't done their homework, and the Federation had carelessly overlooked a vital piece of documentation. Joanne Ingber, the investigation manager, the very person who handed the documents to Janette, had already confirmed to the tribunal in writing that Janette had not been given a copy of that original grievance letter. Now, despite these managers not even agreeing on crucial facts between themselves, they were also claiming that the letter had been read out loud to Janette. Now, although the managers quoted from that letter, it is clear by the way the accusations were worded to Janette that it had not been read out in its entirety as they were implying, and as will be revealed as we examine the internal investigation in detail. So where did this leave Karen Johnson? Confronted with this evidence, she was now obliged to withdraw the false statement. Despite swearing to the contrary, she in fact had no idea at all whether Janette had received a copy of that letter. And we can be sure that this statement was made without an honest belief in its truth. We know this because she even went on to describe Janette's copy of this letter, which did not exist, by again categorically stating that Mr. Ighodaro's name had not been concealed from it. Mr. Ighodaro's identity was not concealed in the copy of the letter passed to Janette at this hearing. Now that the truth about this letter had been settled, we need to ask a very important question. Why would management give copies of everything to Janette? Minutes of the meetings, the anonymous witnesses, everything, except that original letter of allegations. Well, this letter was the only document which contained any references to any of the other allegations Mr. Ighodaro had brought against the other members of staff. It was also the only document which identified Mr. Ighodaro as the originator of the allegations. In fact, this letter contained everything that the Federation insisted that Janette knew about, even if it did mean them making a false claim in a sworn witness statement.